Welcome to the Mythbusters After Show. The episode we are talking about today is taking your questions from Motorbike Mayhem. Jamie Heineman, the first question is, when the biker's head fell off in small scale, did you think this was a bad omen?
No.
We don't really think about things being omens. We just think, oh, that head was too heavy. Let's figure out a different solution. Next question. Your mid-scale test did not go according to plan. Had you thought of other ideas before settling on this one?
We did. We actually thought of a number of different ideas, among which were, and the most interesting one I thought was having a big arm and that we had a wheel on the end of and a circular tank whipping around at high speed, and that would involve like an electric car motor with a lot of power. And I was actually excited about the prospect of having a large, dangerous thing spinning around at high speed in front of us.
Yeah, we also talked about like spraying a fire hose at the bottom of a tire and lifting it up. I mean, trying to isolate the reaction between water moving at high speed and a wheel moving above it actually was a real butt kicker of an item for us. I mean, we discussed probably like 20 different ways to tackle that experiment.
But eventually it evolved, as it should, to the simplest possible way of doing it, which was, let's just go out on the water on a boat with a wheel on the side of it.
55 again?
All right, next question. I noticed that you were always trying to move forward on the boat to get it up on a plane. I've learned that sometimes it's actually better to stay right at the back. Did you try that? Oh.
Well, I've had a lot of experience with that kind of thing, and it sort of depends on the hull shape. Generally, when you're starting out, you've got this flat surface that ideally it would plow in the water a little bit and then pop up on a plane, and then you move. You may well move forward after it does that. Depending on the boat, you may well want to start in the front so that it doesn't plow along as much, but rather it kind of does it a little bit and immediately pops up on the surface. So basically you try everything, which is what we did. And it still didn't work until
I mean,
right
at the
now.
very end, we were each of us, and this is sometimes we go into this mode where we're like, okay, you try three things you're thinking of. All right, now I'll try three things I'm thinking of, and back and forth. And the owner of the boat is suggesting things, and we're trying some of them, and we're rejecting others. I mean, it was just every which way but loose by the end. This question is a little aggressive. Given that you learned more or less nothing during the small and mid-scale tests, how did you convince the insurance company to let your stunt rider try it full scale? Weren't you shooting in the dark? We weren't shooting in the dark. And we didn't learn next to nothing. I mean, we actually saw quite handily that, at a high speed, the wheel skipped along the water just beautifully. We weren't able to, again, as Jamie was saying, refine it to the degree that we were hoping experimentally, just because getting that experiment started was so difficult.
Personally, I would disagree. I don't think we learned anything useful from the small-scale experiments. And I often...
He often doesn't think we learned anything.
Well, I often complain about it because there's sometimes like, I don't think we should be doing small-scale experiments just because, we've got to do a small-scale experiment. If we don't, I like to find, like, well, what are we actually looking for in these small-scale experiments? But the problem with that is that sometimes we go ahead and do a small-scale experiment and thinking that we won't, that it's just, or I've seen rather, I've been critical that way, thinking that we're not going to see anything. Why are we doing this? And then, who knew? All of a sudden there's some little detail or artifact that popped up that actually does teach us something. So
see, exactly.
In this case it didn't, as my personal opinion, but it's not to say that was a useless exercise, because if you don't try it, you're not going to see anything. And in particular, if there's something that's very elaborate, it can help ferret out potential problems that we didn't expect.
Exactly. Now, here's a question that Jamie is going to answer at length. How did you choose the bike?
I spent a lot of time online. I, had some experience with dirt bikes, and so I was looking at what the lightest and most powerful bikes out there were. And over time, I found that they were this particular type of bike, which uses an aluminum frame, and they take, because they don't make two-cycle powered motorcycles anymore because of pollution reasons and so on. This particular company in Indiana takes parts, since the companies do provide parts for older bikes, and assembles them on this lightweight frame that was intended for a much smaller engine. And so that's what makes it ridiculously fast.
Jamie is very fond, as I can tell you from experience, he's very fond of things where the research is to find the best, fastest, biggest, tightest, most powerful thing within a bandwidth. And he will go at it and spend days and weeks researching and talking to experts and finding that thing that's at the top of its game. You know, you really totally love that kind of research.
I do.
What was it like watching Eric do the land-to-land crossing, knowing that one mistake would spell disaster? I have a bone to pick with this question.
Whoa!
Knowing that one mistake would spell disaster? You know, you see this on I grew up on a steady diet of Hollywood stunt shows, and they would say things like, the slightest miscalculation will spell certain death. Well, that's also on the freeway on my way to work this morning. The slightest miscalculation could spell certain death. If I drove into the oncoming lane, I'd die. So one mistake could spell disaster. Well, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in that situation all the time. Climbing a ladder. One mistake could spell disaster. Next question. Most people have watched Eric and feel relieved that it was Eric and not them. Why did Jamie get inspired to get on the bike himself?
Well, because it's a challenge, it's a thrill, and you know, those I suppose just as far as just it's having riding on something that is out of control fast, and then going into a situation where you don't really know what's going to happen is it's exciting.
Well, and also, I mean, the structure of this show is that we're your avatars. We go through this stuff so that we can talk about it and tell you what it was like, and we take it as a point of pride that we use ourselves as the test subjects as often as possible.
Yeah.
If you could do a road trip anywhere in the world, where would you go? I personally have always wanted to. I've always wanted to walk or travel the Spice Road and the Silk Road. I'm fascinated by that road of commerce traveling between the East and the West. That's absolutely the first road trip I would do if you gave me anyone. I don't really want to go anywhere. I'm happy with San Francisco.
Yeah. I don't know that. I mean, there are places, I suppose, going across the steppes of Central Asia would, or you know, Mongolia might be interesting, or through Russia, traveling down in the Amazon and so on. But as far as a road trip, you know, I'm not sure. It might be nicer to take a train.
Okay. There it is. Thanks for joining us for the Mythbusters After Show. We will see you next time.